Hey everybody, welcome back to Swift Lessons for another lead guitar tutorial. This time breaking down some of my favorite David Gilmour style licks and tricks that you can apply to major keys. Now, this lesson is being created in collaboration with our good friend Quist. He's an amazing, very innovative guitar player whose channel features one of the largest collections of quality backing tracks on YouTube. Now you can click the link in the description to enjoy a special Pink Floyd Mother style track that was created specifically for this lesson. I got tabs for you at patreon.com/swiftlessons. Support the channel there and gain access to a ton of extra resources for all my popular YouTube guitar lessons. Now, let's get started. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, getting started with section 1 of this lesson. We're in standard tuning, the key of G major. Now, let's get started talking about this jam track that Quist has made for us. In it, we're going to be going back and forth between a G major and a C major 3 times. From there, we're going to go to the 5 chord D major, back to C major, the 4 chord, and then back to the 1 chord G major, where the entire progression is going to start again. So it should sound like this. The G chord, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, C and 2 and 3 and 4, repeat, G, and back to C, and back to the G chord, and back to C, and to the 5 chord D major, back to C, and then back to G chord. And right there, the entire progression starts again. Okay, very good. Now you have an understanding of the chord progression that you're learning to play over top of. Now friends, that's always the first step in recording a very good guitar solo. Always learn the chord progression first. That's going to reveal a lot of what you can play melodically, and it's also going to reveal which positions are going to be useful for you across the fretboard. Okay, now jumping into section 2 of this lesson. Real quick, I just want to review one of the main scales that I'll be using to create this solo. The G major scale in its G-shape octave position. Okay, so we have the 15th fret of the low E string with the pinky. The A string, we're going 12, up to 14, and then up to 15. Now onto the D string, you're going to play 12 to 14. Then to complete the octave, you're going to play 11, 12 on the G. All right, playing that octave. Now onto the next octave, up to 14. The B string 12, 13, 15. Then the high E string 12, 14, and 15. Put that together and we have real slow. And of course, you can always simplify that into a major pentatonic. As well. Okay, very good everybody. Now that you understand the chord progression and also the main source scale that we're working with, we could jump into learning this guitar solo. Starting with line number 1 of our tablature. Here, Quist has us starting off on a G major chord shape. So I'm gonna outline this chord in its A-shaped position on the 10th fret with a nice little arpeggio lick. From there, the C major chord's gonna come back in, so I'm gonna get a little bit more melodic with it. Before vibratoing back on the G major chord and making my way back to the C chord for line number 2. Okay, so that first lick over G major. We're just gonna slide up to the 10th fret of the A string. Once you're there, you're gonna pluck again and do a nice little pull off and hammer on technique. Now, we're in this position that we have the G major scale. So we can put that to work by grabbing the major 3rd, sliding up to the 5th interval. So that's 9th fret going up to the 12th fret. Now, I'm barring across a little piece of that G chord, where I'm going to pluck the 12th fret G and the 12th fret of the B string. Put that together and we have. Now you're gonna let those notes ring out. You can tremolo a little bit with the whammy bar. And also move your fingers side to side to get a little vibrato as well. All right, now the C chord's coming in, so we're gonna play. All right, I still have that little piece of the G chord, so I'm gonna use those notes, strum down D string to B string. Then I'm gonna go up to 13, slide up to 15, and then next slide up to 17, and then back down to 13. All right, we're gonna pluck that note a few times before pulling off down to the B string 12th fret, and then vibratoing on the G note 12th fret of the G string as the G chord comes back in. Okay, so over the C chord. All right, and now notice how I posture my fingers there. All right, kind of still in that little bar-shaped position. All right, you put licks 1 and 2 together, and we have. Now notice how I threw in a little chuck there. That's just to kind of keep me rhythmic, but also it's something that David Gilmour does very, very commonly, intermittently between his licks. So one more time. Okay, so now we're back on the G major chord, and we're gonna need yet another way of transitioning back to the 4-chord C. So what I have for you. One more time. Okay, so a hammer and pull, 11, 12, 11 on the G string. Then we're gonna go to the 14th fret of the D string, down to 12, and then slide with the middle finger to the root note of the C major chord, where the ultimate goal is going to be to outline it or arpeggiate it the same way we did the 1 chord in the beginning of the solo. Okay, so you put all of line number 1 together and we have, and it should sound like this. Okay, now jumping into line number 2 of our tablature, starting from that last lick, it's gonna sound like this. Okay, with that last little bend getting us to line number 3. Okay, so we started off with that last lick of line 1. Now we're outlining the C major shape with the arpeggio. So we're sliding from the 14th fret D string up to the 17th fret, and then just grabbing 17 and 17 on the G string and B string. So. All right, from there we're gonna get very melodic with it and do a little string skipping. Okay, this isn't really a Gilmour lick, this is something that I kind of put into this as just something interesting that I'd like to share with you. So I'm going on the G string, 11 up to 12, and then to 14 on the high E string. You really want a vibrato there. All right, then 11, 12 again. But this time descend down to the 12th fret of the high E string. Put that together, we have. All right, then. Very nice little melody there. 12, 12, sliding up to 14 on the high E. And then down to 10 on the high E string. For some vibrato. You put those licks together and we have, all right, coming out of line number 1. You you can throw in a little chuck. Okay, so that was over the G major chord. Now the C chord's coming back in, so we need to highlight that chord shape. I'm gonna picture it in its E shape position. Okay, so that's a C major chord. So I'm gonna borrow some notes out of the chord shape. One more time. So I slid from 7 to 9 on the G string. I have the major third of the chord now. Now I'm gonna grab its root. You can choose to harmonize those two notes together or play them separately. And then just kind of vibrato on the high E string. Next, we're gonna slide 10th fret of the G string up to 12, and then grab the high E string 12th fret. So, okay, and then finally we're gonna finish up with a little scrape. As the D major chord comes in, we wanna start to picture that chord in its E-shaped position. So ultimately we're gonna play to get us into line number 3. Okay, so I'm just grabbing 11, 10, 10 on the high E string, and just kind of scraping my pick down in preparation for a big bend to start the next line of tablature. Okay, you put all of line 2 together, and it should sound like this coming out of that last lick of line number 1. Okay, getting ourselves to the C chord. Back to G. And back to C. All right, then the D chord. All right, to start line 3. Now, let's also put together lines 1 and 2. That should sound like this. C major. G major. C. G major. And C major. And D. All right, now we can jump into the final line of tablature, which again is going to sound like this. Okay, so that began with that big bend, scraping down the little D major triad. Then you're going to grab the 12th fret of the high E string, bend it up a whole step. A slow descend back down, making it weep, and then vibratoing on the root note of the D chord, this D note on the 10th fret of the high E string. So, alright, and that's right out of the solo for Mother. Okay, now we could do the same thing for the incoming C chord. Alright, so something that you can always do over top of a major chord. But instead, after that little D major bend, I'm gonna play a nice little arpeggio lick over the C major chord, transitioning us back to the G major chord. Okay, so after that big bend, you need to go up to the 14th fret of the high E string, up to 15, then a series of pull-offs, 17, 15, 14. Next, we're gonna outline the C major chord in its C-shape barred position. So, I played that 14th fret of the high E string, then we're going to 15 on the B, 14 on the G, and then to the 17th fret of the D string, down to 15, down to 14. Okay, you put that together and we have okay, one more time. Next, you're gonna slide down to the 10th fret of the same string, where we're gonna have this very recognizable hook. So, alright, so that was 10, 10, 10 again, slide down a half step, then vibrato on the 10th fret of the A string, over G major. You put those two licks together, and we have... and all of line number 3. Okay, now, real slow, let's play through the entire solo. Alright friends, thanks so much for checking out this David Gilmour style lead guitar lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Also, big thanks to our friend Quist for supplying such an amazing backing track. I hope you're enjoying that too. Big thanks to my supporters at patreon.com/swiftlessons. Hope you're enjoying all those extra resources. And thanks to you guys, I got many more lessons coming up. So keep checking in, please subscribe, please share. This is Rob at Swift Guitar Lessons in Philadelphia, saying happy picking.